For centuries, Portugal kept a secret that I uncovered after months buried in forbidden archives. A king obsessed with a forbidden woman, a nun, beautiful, intelligent, and ambitious. In the heart of Lisbon, beneath the monastery of Odivelas, there is a subterranean tunnel that, according to old reports I held in my own hands, linked the convent to the royal palace. A tunnel through which the king passed in silence to live his nights of sin. This is the story of King John V and Mother Paula, the secret mistress of the King of Portugal, and of the tunnel the Church tried to erase from history. But what really happened in that tunnel? And why, even today, does no one dare to speak about it? I will tell you everything. Imagine the year 1706. Lisbon still smelled of sulfur and ash from the great earthquake that would come decades later, but the harbor already boiled with galleons loaded to the brim. The 18th century was not just another chapter in Portugal's history, it was the empire's absolute apex. An empire stretching from Minho to Timor, from Recife to Macau, which for a few golden decades made Lisbon the richest city in Europe. And at the center of it all, seated on a throne studded with Brazilian diamonds, sat King John V, the magnanimous. At 17, he inherited a kingdom swimming in gold. That's no metaphor. Between 1700 and 1550, Portugal extracted more than 800 tons of gold from Brazil, the equivalent of nearly 1 billion euros per year in today's terms. There was so much gold that the royal coffers overflowed, and the king ordered ingots melted to make cutlery, chandeliers, even solid gold toilets for his palaces. I studied the chronicles, and I know he believed with all his heart that he was God's chosen one. He called himself the Portuguese Sun King, emulating Louis XIV of France, but with one difference. John V thought the sun rose and set because of his divine purpose. He spent hours in private masses, donated fortunes to the Vatican, so much that the Pope granted him the exclusive title, Most Faithful Majesty. And he built churches like a man collecting stamps. In Lisbon alone, he ordered 38 new temples. But his greatest delirium of grandeur was the convent of Mafra. 40,000 workers, 7,000 soldiers, 52,000 slaves. A palace, convent, library, basilica occupying 40,000 square meters, larger than Spain's El Escorial. Mafra has 880 rooms, 4,500 doors, 156 staircases, and bells cast with so much gold that even today they thunder like storms. The king promised it to God if the queen gave him a son. She did. But the truth, which I uncovered in the archives, is that Mafra was not just faith. It was pure vanity. John V wanted the world to know, I am the richest king on earth, and even God owes me favors.
And while the people fasted in the streets and taxes crushed the colonies, the king lived among banquets of truffle-stuffed partridge, Douro wines aged in Pau Brasil barrels, and private concerts with the best Italian castrati. Yes, he imported castrated singers because he believed their voices were closest to the angels. There were permanent musicians, French chefs, Italian craftsmen, Antwerp jewelers working without rest. I read descriptions of tables bending under so much silver and porcelain that it felt blasphemous, and yet it was there, in that blinding shine, that the shadow began to grow. There was a shadow in this golden paradise, a shadow that neither the Pope, nor the Queen, nor the Inquisitors could touch. Because amid the hundreds of masses John V ordered daily, amid public fasts and knee-worn processions, the king held a secret that would make the columns of the Vatican tremble. His true altar was not marble or gold. It wasn't in Mafra, nor in Lisbon's cathedral. His true altar was warm, soft, alive. It was the body of a woman who wore a veil and habit, who prayed the rosary every day, who lived locked inside a convent, but who, at night, opened the doors of heaven and of hell for the most powerful king in Europe. And that woman had a name, Mother Paula Teresa da Silva y Albuquerque. 22 years old, green eyes that the chronicles I read said made the bells ring by themselves, and a voice that turned the Odivelas choir into a hymn of temptation. It wasn't just beauty, it was presence. Those sources spoke of how she walked in the cloister, the hush that followed where she passed, the respect, the envy, the fear. I found anonymous verses that described her as the scandal God didn't foresee. How did a virgin nun, daughter of nobility, become the official mistress of the most Catholic king in the world? How did this forbidden love produce 3 illegitimate sons, whom the king publicly recognized, granting them titles, palaces, even an archbishopric? And above all, was Paula a saint in love, or the greatest manipulator ever to wield a habit as a weapon? Stay with me, because I will open the secret files of the Torre do Tombo, show letters burned by the Inquisition, and reveal the sentence Paula wrote on her deathbed. The sentence that made me doubt everything I had learned about love, power, and sin. Because this is not just the story of a king and his nun. It is the story of how Brazil's gold bought God's silence. The monastery of Odivelas, on Lisbon's outskirts, was no ordinary convent. It was a gilded refuge for noble daughters who, due to scandal, disobedience, or simply a lack of dowry, were given to God. There, behind tall grills and stone walls, lived dozens of blue-blooded nuns, daughters of dukes, marquises, and counts. They prayed all day, yes, but they also embroidered fine silks, played the harpsichord, and received discreet family visits. In the court whispers I discovered in old letters, Odivelas was known as the Convent of the Beautiful Nuns, a place where beauty didn't die, it hid behind black veils.
It was a space educated for discipline and tailored for silent transgression. The rules were strict, the chances to bend them as well. I found an inventory of confiscated objects, mother-of-pearl fans, perfume flasks, letters with tiny droplets of wax, poems written in almost perfect Latin. In each item, a trace of the outside world knocking on the stone door. And it was precisely there that she entered, Paula Teresa da Silva e Albuquerque. Only 17 when she took the habit, yet already a woman who thickened the air. Daughter of a ruined noble family, Paula was brilliant. She spoke Latin and French, played the harp like the angels, and wrote poems the other nuns copied in secret. Cultured, refined, porcelain skin and brown hair that, even under the veil, seemed to defy tonsure. But what the secret letters that circulated through the court and which I managed to read spoke of most were her eyes. Green, deep, which the chronicles of the time said could make a man forget heaven and desire hell. Those eyes are said to have pierced the king on an afternoon of celebration when the choir's music rose in waves, and when the music stopped, the silence wasn't faith, it was foreboding. João V met her during a religious ceremony at Odivelas. The king, already 30, often went there, officially to inspect works or donate alms. But that day, something changed. Paula sang in the novices' choir. Her voice, pure and vibrant, climbed the vaults like a summons. The king, seated in the royal pew, lifted his eyes, and when their gazes crossed, time stopped. João V, the man who had 300 masses said each day, forgot the prayers, forgot the queen beside him,
forgot God. In that instant, he swore silently, "I will return, and she will be mine." I read a note without a signature, the kind of paper that shouldn't have survived, with a short line, "Today's music was not God's, it was mine." I will never know if it was Paola's, but it fits what was to come. But how? How would an absolute king, married and fiercely devout, approach a cloistered nun? The rules were clear: total enclosure. No novice could speak with a man without iron grills between them. Touch her? Unthinkable. Mortal sin. The Inquisition burned people for less. And Paula? She was a virgin, promised to Christ. Did she feel the same fire? Or only fear when she saw the king transfixed? In the days that followed, the convent began to change. Royal messengers appeared almost daily, carrying heavy chests. Aged port wine, Indian silks, Italian instruments, new harps, ivory flutes, all in the name of faith. The abbess received them with nervous smiles and ordered the goods distributed. The older nuns whispered, "Another miracle from the magnanimous king." But everyone knew, everyone. That gold did not come from heaven. It came from Brazil, from the coffers of an obsessed man. And in the convent's attendance ledgers, which I could see on microfilm, small alterations appear. Extended hours for music, the purchase of finer candles, and extraordinary maintenance of interior doors. Dry notes that, together, tell a damp story. And Paula? She received a private room, a larger cell with a window to the garden, and a new harp with the king's initials engraved in gold. She played at night, and did the king listen from beyond the walls? But what happened the first night King John V entered the convent in disguise? Who opened the back door? And what did Paula whisper when he finally touched her? I know the answer, and it will make you question whether it was love or the greatest coup ever devised by a genius in a habit. And now the story descends. Literally, it goes beneath the earth where light never reaches and sins echo forever. It is 1725. Lisbon sleeps under a mantle of stars, but the king does not. John V, the man who orders 300 masses each day, rises from the royal bed in the palace of Palavan, that discreet residence in Benfica, built precisely for this, the nest of forbidden love. The queen sleeps in the Passo da Ribeira, kilometers away. The court thinks the king is ill or in prayer. But no. At midnight, a trap door hidden beneath a Persian rug opens with a creak that sounds like a moan. The king descends a spiral stairwell, black cloak, no crown, a single flickering lantern. 2 mute guards follow, men who would kill their own mothers to keep the secret. They enter the tunnel, more than 2 kilometers of absolute darkness. Damp walls, the smell of mold and sulfur. The floor uneven, thrown together in haste by slaves who later vanished. The secret chronicles stored in the Torre de Tambo that I read say the tunnel was dug in 1721, just after the first sun. Commissioned by the king himself, with Brazilian gold by military engineers who swore silence on pain of death. Imagine the most powerful king in Europe crawling like a thief beneath the city, passing under streets, under churches, under the Inquisition itself. The clatter of horses' hooves above sounds like thunder. Rats run along the walls. Once, the surviving guards say, a flood nearly drowned them. The water rose to the king's chest. He laughed like a madman, because it was worth it. And on one occasion, the candles went out all at once, as if the air had been sucked away. The account speaks of a strong metallic smell and of the king pressing his forehead to the wall, praying in a tongue even the guards did not understand.
On the other side, in the Odivelas monastery, a false door behind the Virgin's altar opens. Paula waits, always with her veil lowered, but her habit parted just enough to show she is no longer Christ's Virgin. They have exactly 4 hours. 4 hours of kisses that taste like sin, moans smothered against cold walls, promises whispered in Latin. Sometimes Paula cries. Sometimes she laughs. Sometimes they both pretend they are only a man and a woman, not a king and a nun. And they say that before returning, he always wrote a line on a small strip of parchment left inside a missal. I will return by the same path. I saw that missal, without the strip, of course, but I saw a marginal note. There are footprints where there should be no ground. At dawn, the king returns. The trapdoor closes. The rug is laid back. He bathes in rose water, dresses in gold, and goes to Mass as if he had spent the night in prayer. No one suspects, or almost no one. But did this tunnel really exist? Or was it only a legend created by the court to justify 3 royal bastards riding in the king's carriages? I went after the truth. In 1934, during Lisbon's subway construction, workers found traces of old galleries exactly along the Pulhava-Odivelas axis. Manueline stonework, pick marks, even a piece of an 18th century lantern. In 1987, archaeologists from the Lourdes Council explored the monastery's subsoil. They discovered a walled door behind the high altar. They opened it. Inside, a corridor running 400 meters, then blocked by a collapse. Age, 18th century. The oldest monks, the ones I spoke with, call the place the Path of the Sinners. They say that on nights of a full moon, one can still hear footsteps, the steps of royal boots, and a woman's whisper, "Come back, my king, come back." And one detail I almost ignored, a record of a foundation repair at the end of the 19th century, accompanied by the order, "Do not disclose." It wasn't only stone, it was instruction. Today, the galleries are off limits. Iron gates, danger signs. The Portuguese state does not want anyone entering. Why? Because if the tunnel is real, everything changes. It proves that the most Catholic king in history built a highway to hell. It proves Paula was no victim, she was an accomplice. And it proves that love, or desire, can be stronger than God, stronger than the Pope, stronger than an entire empire. But I discovered something no one reported. In one of those walled galleries in 1992, an archaeologist found an inscription in the stone. 2 interlaced letters, J and P. John and Paula? Or just coincidence? There was also a rustic, almost childlike sketch, a crown, and beside it something that could be a veil. Too simple to be proof, too unsettling to forget. After the first visits, after those stolen encounters in the tunnel's darkness where the king tasted the forbidden and Paula discovered that desire can outweigh any vow, João V decided it was no longer enough. He didn't want to be a visitor, he wanted to be master. In 1726, with a secret royal decree, one of those that never reached the Vatican archives, the king ordered an entire new wing inside the convent of Odivelas just for her. They called it the Tower of Mother Paula. Imagine it. In the midst of cold cells and stone corridors where nuns prayed the rosary until their knees bled, a miniature palace rises, 4 floors just for Paula. Brazilian jacaranda furniture inlaid with pure gold, Bohemian crystal windows that filtered light like diamonds, blood-red velvet curtains from Venice so heavy 4 maids were needed to draw them. A personal harpist, an Italian eunuch, played for her every night. And at the center of the master room, a canopy bed with twisted columns covered with Chinese silk sheets that had never known another woman's touch.
It was a palace inside the house of God, a sanctuary of sin disguised as a monastic cell. The king arrived through the tunnel, always at midnight. The guards stayed below in the dark. He climbed the secret stairs leading directly to the tower. And Paula waited. Not in black, dressed in pure white, a linen nightgown so fine it was nearly transparent. Around her neck, the pearl necklace he gave her on the first night, 365 pearls, one for each day of the year he promised to return. She knelt when he entered, not out of devotion to God, out of devotion to him. With each visit, he left more gold, a ruby ring the size of a grape, a Venetian mirror that, they said, reflected even sins, a human hair wig for when she shaved her head in penance, but she never did. With every encounter, the sin grew. First kisses, then caresses that made the walls tremble, then 3 children, 3 boys of Pahavan, Gaspar, José, Antonio. Royal bastards whom the king publicly recognized, granting them titles before they could even walk. And I found mention of a trousseau prepared by higher order for a boy destined for letters and the altar, with no mother named. The secret was there, in plain ink, afraid to say the obvious. But how far was Paula willing to go? For this mad love, or for absolute power? She was no longer a frightened novice. She commanded the abbess. She had maids who served as her spies. She received letters from envious marquises, and she hoarded it all. Jewels, lands, 200 contas de reis hidden beneath the altar. But one night in 1732, Paula disappeared for 3 days. The king went mad. He ordered the guard to search all Lisbon. Where did she go? With whom? And what did she bring back that changed everything? I read an anonymous account from a coachman. A veiled lady with a discreet escort went toward Pahavan by a back road, carrying a small chest. She returned without the chest. What was inside? Letters? Money? A secret that purchased silence? Over time, Mother Paula ceased to be only the secret mistress and became a shadow over the entire realm. I, who plunged into the forbidden files of the Torre de Tombeau and read letters that should never survived, can tell you, she was feared. Feared like few women in history. Imagine it. A nun, locked inside a convent, decides who rises and who falls at Lisbon's court. A minister bold enough to criticize royal expenses, dismissed the next day. A bishop who spoke too freely about sins of the flesh, transferred to a diocese at the end of the world in Africa. A jealous marquis who spread rumors, he lost lands, titles, even his freedom. Paula didn't need to shout. She only had to whisper in the king's ear during those nights in the tower. And João V, the man who believed he was God's envoy, obeyed. He obeyed like a child obeys his mother. "My king," she would say, "that man is a viper. Cut off his head before he bites you." And the next day, the head rolled. Metaphorically, of course, but it rolled. There were processions, sermons, morality plays, and under everything, a web of favors that ran through her hands. Ministers trembled before her. I found records of secret audiences where secretaries of state waited in the corridor of the Palace of Pahavan on their knees just to kiss the ring Paula wore, a ring with the royal coat of arms that no one else was allowed to touch. To some, she was the ultimate sinner, the Portuguese Jezebel who bewitched the king with potions or with the devil. To others, she was the uncrowned queen, the real mistress of Portugal. Because while the legitimate queen, Maria Anna of Austria, lived isolated in the palace, Paula ruled. She ruled everything. And their relationship? It did not remain only whispers and jewels. It bore fruit. 3 fruits that shook the realm. First came Gaspar, born in 21. The king immediately recognized him as an illegitimate son, but legitimate in the crown's eyes. At 9, Gaspar was Archbishop of Braga, a bastard at the high altar, then Antonio, and finally Joseph, the most famous, the boy of Palhavan, who would become Marquis of Valencia and Grand Inquisitor. 3 boys raised in palaces with royal tutors, while the queen suffered miscarriage after miscarriage.
The king not only recognized them, he gave them everything: titles, estates, pensions that drained Brazil's coffers. And that enraged the church. Pope Benedict XIV threatened to excommunicate the entire kingdom. Angry letters arrived from Rome. How dare you profane the sacrament of matrimony? A nun mother of princes? The Portuguese Inquisition seethed. Bishops preached against the royal adultery in coded sermons. But John V, I admire his audacity, answered with ships. Entire ships loaded with gold, silver, diamonds. One of them, Nossa Senhora da Conceição, carried 50,000 cruzados merely to hush the Vatican, bribes disguised as pious donations. And the Pope? He fell silent. Excommunication never came. Silence was bought, as everything at court. And here lies the question that never dies. What was that? Truly, love that dares all, or the perfect game, where every coin bought forgiveness and every kiss bought power? So I ask you, how far did Paula's power go? Did she manipulate the king like a puppet? Or was it true love, the kind that makes a man defy God? The next part is the darkest. The night someone tried to poison Mother Paula with arsenic in the communion wine. She survived, but lost her hair, and the king ordered a wig made of pure gold. Pure gold. But was it truly an attack? Or did Paula stage it to test his love? I found 2 versions. In one, a court rival paid a sacristan. In another, Paula herself substituted the wine with a trial chalice, staging a feint and consecrating new loyalties. Without final proof, echoes remained. And sometimes, the echo tells more than the shout. The years passed like a golden sigh that slowly turned to venom. I, who spent months in the Torre do Tombo, leafing through yellowed papers and letters crumbling to dust, can tell you how it all collapsed. John V, the magnanimous, the Sun King who once fit inside shining armor, swelled. He swelled so much that he hardly left his bed. Obese, gout-ridden, his body covered in sores no royal physician could cure. Locked in the Passo da Bemposta, surrounded by Italian doctors and friars praying day and night, the man who had raised Mafra could now barely reach the window. And yet, even then, he did not forget her. Every week, a courier left the palace with sealed chests, love letters on perfumed paper written by a trembling hand. My Paula, my eternal queen, your scent still lives in me. Flasks of perfume from Grasse made just for her, damask rose mixed with Brazilian musk. Jewels that no longer fit his swollen fingers, but which he sent anyway. Promises. When this cursed illness passes, I will return by our path. Wait for me. And Paula waited. In the tower he had built for her, now with grey hair beneath the veil, but still with the green eyes that once halted a kingdom. At 50, she was no frightened novice. She was the unofficial royal widow. She prayed more, yes, but she prayed for him.
A marginal note in a breviary mentions tears in the oratory on a date that matches one of the king's crises. Who wrote it? I don't know. But there is no silence more eloquent than the silence of someone who learns to weep in secret. On July 31st, 1750, the king died at 60. They say his last words were, "Paula, forgive me." Lisbon dressed in mourning. The court expected her fall. Now she collapses, jealous marquises whispered. Without her protector, the nun returns to nothing.
the Inquisition licked its lips. The new king, Joseph I, the legitimate son of the betrayed queen, could have cut everything. He could have sent Paula to a far-flung convent, or worse. But he did not. Joseph I kept everything: the tower, the pensions, the servants, the privileges. Why? Because the boys of Palhava, the three bastards, were his half-brothers. Because Paula had raised them like princes. Because, deep down, even the new king knew she had saved the Braganza dynasty from extinction. Without her children, there would not have been enough heirs. Paula lived another 18 years in absolute luxury. She died in 1768, at 67, in her palace within the convent. She left fortunes. She left lands. She left an entire library of love letters she ordered burned, but some survived. And in one of them, which I know only from an old transcription, there was a line that haunts me. The love that cannot be spoken writes itself on the walls. Perhaps that is why stones speak. And the tunnel? The tunnel. It disappeared, or it was made to disappear. I found 19th century documents, orders signed by Queen Maria I, the Mad, John V's granddaughter. Seal all subterranean passages between Palhava and Odivelas, erase them from maps, on pain of treason. In 1834, with the extinction of religious orders, troops entered the monastery. Doors were torn down, passages walled up, records destroyed. Today, if you go to Odivelas, I went, parts of the monastery are closed to the public. Iron doors, signs warning danger of collapse. Corridors ending in modern concrete walls built in the 1970s to reinforce the structure. But I spoke with an archaeologist who entered one of those areas in 1998. He saw it. 18th century pick marks, a broken lantern fragment, and 2 letters carved in the stone, J and P, and more. An inscription whitewashed with lime, the outline of 3 numbers that might be a date. The remaining stroke looked like a 7. Sometimes history doesn't hide, it merely grows tired of explaining itself. The tunnel vanished because Portugal wanted to forget. It wanted to forget that the most Catholic king in history built a private road to sin. It wanted to forget that a nun wielded more power than queens. But I do not forget. And you, who have come this far, won't either. Because love or manipulation, passion or power, the truth lies down there, buried, waiting for whoever has the courage to open the walls. Thank you for staying till the end. If this story sent a chill down your spine, smash the like, subscribe, and comment Paula Queen or Paula Demon. Lover or manipulator? A saint in love or a brilliant sinner? I, who spent months lost in dusty archives, letters burned by the Inquisition and whispers from nuns who are no longer among us, I still cannot answer. Above all, Paula was a woman who defied time. At 17, she entered the convent a frightened novice. At 67, she died as the most powerful woman in Portugal, richer than duchesses, more feared than inquisitors, more loved or hated than any queen. She never asked for a crown, never demanded a throne, but she ruled the kingdom for 30 years. She had 3 children with the most Catholic king in history. She survived poisoning attempts, papal bribes, and courtly envy. And when John V died in her arms, sobbing, she did not fall. She rose. She lived 18 more years in the luxury she'd built with intelligence, desire, and yes, perhaps a touch of coldness. And I return to the first question. What force was this? Faith that bends and does not break? Desire disguised as destiny? The lucidity of a woman who understood the men's game and played it better than all of them? Perhaps that is why the church prefers the tunnel remain forgotten. Because if one day we reopen those walled doors in Odivelas, if we descend again those 2 kilometers of darkness, we will not find only ancient stones and cobwebs. We will find proof that a single woman bent an empire. That love, or the perfect game, can be stronger than God, than the Pope, than all the gold of Brazil. Certain doors, once reopened, reveal that the greatest revolutions don't happen in palaces. They happen in a forbidden room, between silk sheets and whispered promises. Paola was not a saint. She was not a demon. She was human, and that frightens us more than anything. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. If this story left you breathless, smash the like right now. I want to see 20,000 likes in 24 hours. Subscribe and turn on the bell because next week I'll bring the case of the nun who poisoned an entire king. Comment below, Paola lover or Paola manipulator? The most upvoted comment gets a shout out in the next video. Share it with someone who loves royal secrets. And remember, behind every habit, there may be a queen. And you? You who stayed with me this far, immersed in secrets that history tried to bury? What do you think? Do you truly believe the tunnel existed? That the most powerful king in Portugal crawled beneath the earth night after night just to touch the woman who made him forget God? Or was it all a brilliant legend invented by the court to hide a romance no one wanted to admit? I believe it did. Because the marks in the stone do not lie. The burned letters do not lie. And those echoes still heard in Odivelas do not lie. But I want to hear from you. Comment below. Real tunnel or Roman legend? Like this now. Crush that like so the algorithm knows secrets like these deserve to be told. Share with that friend who loves real mysteries, the one who binges series about queens and forbidden nuns. And subscribe now, ring the bell, because here, history is not dust in books. Here, history breathes. It still whispers between the walls. And next Saturday, I'll open another secret that will keep you from sleeping. Thank you for staying. See you soon. And be careful. Nothing is quite what it seems.